So next up, we are going to have a keynote about teaching during this time. When we were planning this conference, we gave a lot of thought to what would be most useful in terms of providing you with a keynote. It's a historic time, as we were just discussing with Peter Gelb. There's so much going on in this world. And as teachers, as Peter was saying, you're first responders. You're on the front line of all of it. So we thought, who better to speak to you than you? So I interviewed several members of the Met Educators family, and I asked them the following questions. Who are you? How are you really? What challenges have you been facing during this time? And what possibilities have you surfaced during this time? And finally, how are you taking care of yourself? So in a moment, we're going to get to hear how members of the Met Ed community answered these questions. And after we hear from them, we want to hear from you. So as you watch, if you have something to write with and something to write on, or you can even maybe throw it into the chat, just capture your thoughts about how you might answer some of those questions. So now let's take a look at how these educators answered those questions.
Life right now during the pandemic is tiring, and I think everyone feels that.
Some days I feel like this can't be really real.
It really has been a mixed bag of emotions.
Some days I am really okay, and other days I just sit down and you just want to cry.
I am a million times better today than I was a few months ago.
Professionally, I feel so disjointed from what I normally would feel like and normally do.
I just like maybe Wednesday of this week started to feel like I'm functioning and maybe even being productive.
Now that I'm back in the Zoom classroom with kids and singing songs and, seeing their smiling faces, it's really brought me up.
I just keep my focus on what I always have kept my focus on, and that is enriching my students' lives. And that just kind of keeps me centered. And they need it, in my opinion, more than anything right now.
The curriculum that we're using wasn't set up to be geared to work with students virtually. So we had to kind of make a big switch.
You're going to learn technology. You're going to do technology whether you want to or not.
The obvious are the technological glitches that you deal with on a minute-to-minute basis.
Internet access, and especially broadband access, is not equitable in this country. Most of my students live in neighborhoods that do not have fiber optic cable. Even the hotspots that the school district is providing for students, they're still running into problems with data caps.
The biggest issue, as we've discussed in our department, is latency. By the time I hear it, their mouths have already moved on.
And getting them to really pay attention and not lose Johnny. If I lose Johnny in the classroom, I can come right up to Johnny on Zoom. They're in their own environment. They're home, they're comfortable, and trying to get them to really focus and be engaged at all times when there's so many distractions within their home. That's a big challenge, trying to keep them engaged.
One day I had 4 stuffed animals in front of me in the grid. They thought they were hilarious, and I just went with it.
Taking the temperature of the students, you can do that in one fell swoop. When you're in the classroom, you can't do that when you're online.
You're dealing with a lot of challenges with little children screaming at home and parents not being able to work and people getting in the way. And you just have to just understand that they're going through a lot too.
I miss the energy of a live, large group ensemble creating music together. I've really missed that. And the students are really aching for that as well.
No matter how much you do a Zoom rehearsal, it is not the same.
When you're singing and you're singing to your computer, that's a vastly different brain activity than when you hear 50 other people singing around you.
What do I bring to the virtual platform that at least the kids will want to sign in and want to engage? That's the biggest challenge to me.
And right now we just have to rely on our best instincts in the moment.
I love my job. I'm a little obsessed with my job. And so I tend to put my job before my own self-care.
Putting boundaries on the work and taking care of myself is something I haven't always been great at, but I'm really prioritizing that.
When I need a minute, I take a minute.
I really need to take time for myself physically, mentally, emotionally.
I've really just tried to keep myself involved in things I love.
I've seen plays, I've seen operas, I've seen ballets, I've seen all kinds of things online.
The Real Housewives has been a lifeline.
I'm trying to stretch my mind while I've got the time to do it.
I'm in an online class. I'm learning French.
I actually got the annual subscription for Met HD.
I connected with Met Opera summer camp. I watched it as much and as often as I could. It gave me like uplift.
Don't try and go through this alone. Don't. Your brains will explode.
We're not the only ones going through this. We're all going through this together.
The people that say you can't teach old dogs new tricks, they really don't know the tenacity and willpower of a teacher.
People are really coming together. They're dividing the work up. They're sharing their work with one another.
Knowing that you're not the only one going through this is essential.
This summer, several of us decided that we're going to get together, different colleagues of mine, and it was all different areas, choir, band, orchestra, dance, theater, and we all decided to write curriculum and then make a resource bank for our colleagues.
If we don't do this together, it's going to be too much for any one of us to do alone. So I think collaboration on a variety of fronts is really the key to making it through this time. And also that brings encouragement and inspiration and innovation.
What I've learned is if you put out very open-ended assignments, the stuff that you get back is so much more powerful. The bar they set for themselves is way higher.
They composed their own songs. I mean, they were funky, weird stuff, but it was ours, and that's cool.
A girl turned in a piece of music that was a 5-part women's choir piece based on a lullaby that she had pulled from a novel series that she is writing. She's 16. You know, her English teacher had no idea that this girl was writing a novel series. I had no idea that she could write music at a high level. We're actually going to perform the piece this year. How can we make it as open-ended as possible so that kids will push themselves without us having to really do anything?
I had a closer connection with some of the students online than I really did in person in the classroom. And particularly those students that acted out in the classroom online, it was a much more personal, respectful type of relationship and conversations that we had back and forth.
They're waiting for me for classes. Like I get there and some of them have been waiting for 10 minutes. I feel like that really shows me that my work and my purpose is really needed more than anything.
I am just reminded all over again what amazing people educators are.
The children of America need us now more than they ever needed us.
It is amazing the work that people are doing, and students and families are benefiting. Don't ever feel like what you're doing isn't making a difference, doesn't matter to your students. They need you.
And I think on the other end, we're going to come out even stronger because I think we've learned a lot of things that we can actually incorporate into what we're doing and make our programs even stronger in the end.
The planting of a seed is an act of faith. And you can plant a seed in a student's mind, but it's not necessarily going to grow in the time that you see it. So you just have to have the faith that as you keep planting those seeds in the minds of students, that someday it will take root and grow.
How much do we love our teachers? Those conversations with those teachers were so moving and inspiring to me. And I'm so happy to share a little bit of that with you. But now we would like to hear from you. teachers who are in attendance. Would you raise a virtual hand to let us know if, when you were watching this video or hearing the Met Ed team talk about their summer camp adventure or listening to Peter Gelb speak, if any sparks of inspiration came to you? If you want to, you can also share in the chat. And if you do share in the chat, if you could, next to your name, put the school where you're from. So be sure to share the name of your school so that we can know that. And I'm going to welcome back Dan Marshall. Dan, will you come back and help me facilitate this conversation? Dan is going to be monitoring and promoting participants to panelists, and I will be moderating the chat. And we're going to be asking you the questions that we have been asking everyone you've seen thus far. And let's see, we have some hands up, we have some things in the chat. Dan, is there anybody? Let's see.
I would love to get... let's see here. I would love to get Christy Werner in here. Christy, can we promote you to panelist?
Christy,
get
do
in
we have
here.
your consent?
Oh my gosh, I think we might. Let's see.
Christy's going to travel through time and through space and be promoted to panelist level.
Look at that.
Christy, yes, you unmuted yourself.
Hi.
Hi.
Christy, you guys.
It's great to see you too. Will you share with everyone where you are zooming in from?
From Long Island, New York.
Yes, Long Island. It's a beautiful day on the East Coast, isn't it? Gorgeous day. Thanks for being inside on such a beautiful, sunny Saturday. So, Christy, so we know who you are. The question that everyone's being asked today is, how are you? But really, how are you really?
Well, the reason I raised my hand was because I was so quickly humbled by that video, because if you had asked me 10 minutes ago, I would have said, I'm horrible. I hate my job. I try to make it through a week without crying at school, and I've done it like once. And then I'm watching and I'm going, all right, I'm in person. Yes, it's really stinky, but I have my kids, and yes, their masks are wet and dripping on my feet, but I have them. So I was a little bit, I was very quickly said, all right, yes, I'm doing a virtual piece as well. And yeah, my kids, we can't sing. But a lot of the challenges that a lot of other people are facing, mine are different. So I was able to take my own challenges and say, but look at all the challenges I don't have.
Christy,
and it's a fresh perspective.
Yeah, I think that, so in preparation for this conversation, I've been doing, and just to get through life, frankly, I've been doing so much research about resilience. And I think there really is, research shows us, there is something to being able to say, these are things that I'm grateful for. These are things that, that really does, bolster your resilience. So I love hearing that. Christy, I was remiss in not asking you, what do you teach?
Oh, sorry. I'm K-5 classroom music. All my choruses, I do 4, 5, and middle school choir, jazz choir, and they've all just canceled. So I have them at that time slot, but we're figuring it out.
Yes. And why are your students' masks so drippy?
So one of the first things that the little ones, kindergarten, first grade, you're either trying to keep their masks on or you're trying to keep them out of their mouth. So it's just a lot of wet masks, and we're hitting our hands on the desk and spit flies, and it's just
that's a lot of droplets, Christy. So what possibilities we've heard some of the challenges. You've got super drippy students. You have curriculum that, if it was standard curriculum, it's a lot of expression of air, without choral singing, all of that in groups, which we know now is not safe. So what possibilities have you surfaced in your work?
I've really focused on preparing them for if we have to close again. And so I've tried to, and I do have any students that opted to be virtual they had the choice. So I do have virtual students as well. So I'm trying to kind of connect the two. And I'm having my virtual students have similar assignments to my live students. So a lot of times I'm having them get out their Chromebook and right in front of me do activities where we're sharing on one document up front, and we're doing projects where we're adding musical elements to fairy tales, or we're adding music to something else that we're not necessarily performing the music, but we're being creative with what could we do with the music, or what kind of job would you have if this was a musical? Like, how would your job look different if it was musical? And things like that, where we're more thinking than performing. And then I'm having kids for the first time ever saying, can I work on this more at home? And I'm saying, yes. And you can go home and you can sing into your computer and record it, and we'll see it next week up on the screen.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm getting like a big group of kids that are like craving more and giving me more, which is great. I'm also seeing kids that, when I'm asking them questions, when they're raising their hand and they may be reluctant to answer or whatever, if I'm having them answer questions on their computer that are not necessarily live, I'm getting answers from kids that are especially behavioral kids. That in the past I've spent a lot of time kind of squashing the disruptive behaviors. They're giving me answers like, if you could do anything in the whole world today, what would it be? And they're going, go to school. And blowing my mind. I'm like, you like this? And I never knew. So I'm learning more about my kids, and I'm actually connecting with them in some levels more.
That's what Chris Drews was saying in the video that we just showed, that sometimes this mode of communication in the virtual format, and sometimes it can be quiet, it can be one-on-one, it can be typed instead of spoken, can create a connection that maybe wasn't present before. I love these possibilities. Christy, how are you taking care of yourself now?
I have 2 little ones, and all my family lives nearby, which is lovely. But I feel busy. I have not had any experience with time on my hands.
Of course.
So I'm trying, I don't know yet. I don't know. I'm trying to.
So this might be a growth opportunity for you. Here's your assignment. Here's teacher Susan giving teacher Christy an assignment.
We've been trying to be a little healthier as far as eating. We're not eating out as much, which is led to a little
That's
healthier.
Wonderful. That's wonderful.
We've instituted family puzzle night once a week, which has been good.
No, this is great. That's a great spark of inspiration. Christy, thanks so much for raising your hand. Thanks.
Great to see you.
If you were in person with us, Christy, of course, we would whoosh you. Now, this is very hard to do on Zoom because
I feel it. I know it's there.
But I'm just gonna whoosh straight to the camera at the risk of looking like a total idiot. But Christy, and thanks and gratitude, and on behalf of all the teachers that are watching right now, I give you one big whoosh of gratitude.
Thank you.
Bye, Christy.
Bye, Christy.
I love that, Christy. Who else do we have?
Well, I wanted to, first of all, we have a new member of our HD Live in Schools community, Ashley Greenlee from the great state of Kansas, from Topeka. Ashley, I'm going to promote you to panelist because I would love to hear about, this is your first, you're dipping your toe into HD Live in Schools for the first time. And we'd love to hear what you make of all of this, especially in this very
what a time
environment that we're in.
Come on along.
Yeah, there she is.
Ashley, will you unmute yourself?
Great.
Oh, yes.
Ashley,
hi.
Hi.
It's so nice to see your face.
It's so nice to see yours. I'm staining shelves. I'm multitasking out in my garage. So I apologize for my ensemble.
Ashley, I'm here for all of it. I'm here for you being present for this conference. I'm here for you crafting and DIYing so hard over there. Ashley, will you tell us what you teach?
Yeah, I teach high school choir. I have 4 ensembles this year because we started an enjoyment of music class. So that's like music history and just a lot of just learning how to enjoy music in different ways for students that might not necessarily be musicians themselves, but lovers, or, you know, got to just graduate from high school with that music credit. We're doing a great job, and that class is taught concurrently with a local college. So some students are getting credit. Am I getting cut? Am I okay on my service? Am I cutting out a lot?
You're good. No, you're good. You're very strong. You got a strong signal.
Okay. Okay. I'm good. Yeah. Okay. So, and then I teach private voice. So that's what I do. That's my job.
Right. So the question of the day, how are you really? How are you doing during this time?
I'm okay. During the last 7 months, I got married. I bought a house. So there's been a lot of craziness happen. Thank you. So it was nice to have some positive, exciting things. You know, it never happened. It didn't happen the way that we wanted it to. But teaching, we're doing a really strange schedule. We have like A for 3 hours, a bit of a break, and then B for 3 hours, while the remote students are also there during that time. So I see my students in person twice a week for 40 minutes. And then I see all of my students remotely on Wednesdays for 52 minutes. So it's a very different amount of time. Thank you, Sammy. It is a lot of, it's a big shift. It's a really big shift. And I'm trying to get students singing as much as possible because that's just what they want.
Yeah. So what challenges with this?
You asked how I'm.
Yeah. Well, yeah. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. It's very challenging. Singing with a face shield on and a mask and changing classrooms every 40 minutes is really hard. My husband is very scared of COVID. And so I'm, trying to be as reassuring as possible. And it's hard. Everything's hard. And my kids keep me going, and I really miss hugs so much. I'm a hugger, and I'm definitely like a choir mama. That's my personality, is the choir mama thing. And I have lots of kids that have trauma and major mental health issues. So I just feel like I'm giving constantly, and it's a lot. So I'm trying. I took a really long bath this morning.
Oh, self-care.
I had some wine last night. Yeah. I
self-care.
Ask me that,
a bath
so
and wine. Yeah, I love it. So,
in
that answer, you just shared some of the challenges that you're facing teaching these things with a mask, with a face shield. What possibilities, have you surfaced any possibilities during this time?
So we are in person for 40 minutes, and then students are at home for 55 minutes twice a week. They're supposed to be doing kind of like a sort of flipped classroom. So our district purchased Soundtrap memberships for our students. So we're creating virtual choirs. I'm getting a lot more opportunities to assess students individually in through Flipgrid and through Soundtrap. And that's been really great. I'm getting to connect with students in a different way because I'm able to hear them individually more. And, I haven't heard I'm so scared to record. I think they just know that it's something they need to do and they should do. So they're doing it. And, some of my classes are really small and some of them are not. And in those really small classes, I'm getting to give those students group voice lessons kind of, which is really cool. It's different. I'm trying to support students in different ways and just be there for them. So
Ashley, you bring up some great points, and you just shared some technology that you've been using, and I dare say we've all taken a deeper dive with technology that may have been available before, but this has really forced us to gain some mastery of it. In the interviews that we did with the teachers, you just saw that little cutting of that video. We also surfaced a lot of different websites and apps, and you just mentioned Soundtrap and Flipgrid, but we'll pull all of those resources together and make sure that people have like a really good list, probably in about a week or so. So thank you so much, Ashley.
Awesome.
I love that you're taking care of yourself with a little bath, a little wine, and I hope you'll keep doing that. And welcome to this community of people. We're so happy you're here.
Thanks for being here,
Thank
Ashley.
you, Susan.
And then thanks.
I can't wait
to do this live.
I can't wait to start teaching them the opera stuff. Woo!
That too. So good. If you were here with us in person, to thank you for what you just did, Ashley, I hope you're still watching. We would whoosh you so hard.
Yeah.
That sounds a little compromising, but really.
Can we explain to our newcomers what whooshing is? Someone was asking.
Yes, Ashley, you might be wondering. So the person who just shared stands in the center of the community, and we all, on the count of 3, send them a big whoosh, and we use our body and our gesture and our voices, and it's sort of like having like the friendliest ghost move through you. It's just sort of like a weird spa treatment. That's what I'm going to do when this COVID is the world reopens. I'm going to start a whooshing spa. It's going to be very weird and very successful, ? So Ashley, on behalf of all of us who are with you today, we give you a great big virtual whoosh. Thank you so much. We're so happy to see you.
Thank you.
What else is happening in the chat, Dan?
Well, my good friend Pat Tobin in Sioux City, Iowa, said something that made me want to bring her into the space because Pat, I'll set this up a little bit, Susan.
Yeah.
Pat joined HD Live in Schools last school year.
Okay.
And we had a really hard time finding a theater that broadcast the HDs that was close enough for her students to bus to. So when I reached out to everyone and said, hey, I think we're going to go to Met Opera On Demand, I think I could have heard Pat screaming joyfully all the way from Iowa. So I'm going to bring Pat in. Pat, I hope you're ready. Let me just, here we go. I'm going to promote you to panelist.
Pat, fix your hair.
Pat had like a marching band competition today or something.
Oh,
so she's joining us. You know what? She's here. But yeah, I wanted to talk with her about, she's kind of living proof of what a very positive, exciting thing can be. Maybe she's in between in the ether right now. I've noticed
traveling through time and space.
I'm just keeping an eye on the chat too, and I have some really exciting, some answers from people that are coming through. I'm going to scroll up. Oh, maybe we lost Pat Tobin. Are you here?
Let's read Pat's comment. So Pat says, yes. This is prime time to truly move towards comprehensive music education, incorporating more of the connect, respond, and create standards. And that was Pat from Sioux City Schools in Sioux City, Iowa. As we were discussing with Peter, I really do think this is, it has been my personal experience, and I've just been observing it in so many teachers and human beings, that this is a time to investigate and sort of assess what's working, what's not working, and in preparation to return to sort of the normal world. I've heard teachers say over and over and over again, it won't go back to exactly what it was before. We are going to take the very best of this learning and incorporate it so that all of these possibilities that we've discovered won't just get sort of discarded afterwards. We want to take those and incorporate them moving forward, which I love. And that's reflected in Pat's comment.
Well, I think that Pat, she just texted me and said she's experiencing a little bit of a pinwheel situation. So I'm sorry, Pat.
The old beach ball.
I know. But I'm wondering if I can get George Davis from Buffalo, New York in here. We love George.
I would love to see George Davis's face.
Yeah, I would love to promote you and see how you're getting through.
Anybody who dialed into this conference just like in their bathrobe is so regretting it now. Because we're promoting you to panelist and you're in your PJs.
Oh, I'm hoping George can join us.
While you bring up George, I just want to look at Tim Brendler's comment. Tim, of course, is from Fort Worth, Texas. He's just a rock star of a teacher and doing so much interesting stuff with technology. George, we're going to be with you in just a second. Tim says, Chris's words about challenges of equity and access really resonated with me. This has been a tremendous challenge for us in a district whose students are primarily in the low SES bracket. I think that is, of course, we're not going to solve that today on this conference by 3:30 Eastern time, but I think it's super important to acknowledge and tackle. But now we've got George Davis. George, I'm so happy to
guys,
see
how
your
are you?
face.
Good to see you.
George, it's wonderful to see your face. You look like you're someplace very beautiful and breezy.
Yeah, man.
Gorgeous. George, I want to start by asking you what I have asked so many today, which is, how are you? Oh, first I should ask you, would you introduce yourself and say where you teach?
I'm George Davis. I teach in the Buffalo Public Schools. Yeah, and this time has been very, it's been very difficult because you have to learn, you have to become a technology expert overnight.
Yeah, whether you want to or not. Yes.
Yeah, whether you want to or not. So
Yeah.
I'm learning how to use OBS instead of just Zoom.
Yes. How is it so far?
I'm learning. It's a slow learning curve, as you see, and I keep changing this to different things every time the kids come to class. And there's always a comment about it, and they make recommendations for the next one and that kind of thing.
For people who don't know, can you say what OBS is?
An open source broadcasting system. It's a free open source software that enables you to literally turn your computer into a studio.
Yes.
And with a green screen and various capabilities, you can change your voice, you can change your background, you can add video, you can change your scenes.
Oh,
like that.
Yeah, it really keeps, I've been playing around with it myself and learning it, and it keeps things interesting, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. It keeps them paying attention. We were on a roller coaster for a second.
Exactly.
I love that you're learning that. George, can you tell us, how are you doing really? How are you?
It's very challenging. I'm fully remote. I have health issues that keep me a distance.
Yep.
So I try to take care of myself as much as possible. You have to pair off time for yourself in this environment. I've realized that. I found that I used to work extra hard. You know, like in March when it all started up, I would never turn off. So if a kid text messaged me at 2:00 in the morning, I responded.
Yeah.
And, you know, and after a while I said, you know what? I need to start taking time for myself. I need to compartmentalize. So even today, what I've decided to do during this time is I have another house somewhere else in the city of Buffalo. So I have a studio set up there. So every day I go to work.
Oh.
That way my house life, my family life is completely separate from this.
Brilliant.
So that's a suggestion. If you have a friend that has an extra room in their house or apartment, do that. And that's what's worked for me so far.
Do you feel that it has made a difference for you?
Absolutely.
You're feeling it's like more boundaried, and when you step away from that studio, you step away from that desk, you can set it down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more, I feel a lot more safer emotionally and physically than if I was at home doing it, because it'd be like, guys, be quiet over there. And, you know, and I would always be pulled away from being present.
Yeah, I can see how that would just like turn your stress levels down almost immediately for all of those reasons. That's really, really great. Can you talk to us a little bit more about other challenges that you're facing teaching during this time, and maybe some possibilities that you've surfaced during this time?
I've discovered that actually a lot of people have said it already. When there are the students who are normally unengaged, are actually more engaged when they're online. You can talk to them one-on-one. They like having your attention on one-on-one. They come to class early so that they can talk to you. It's pretty interesting. I thought that it would be harder, but in that case, it's a little easier to make those connections.
It's interesting.
Than if you were in a school situation.
Yeah, I love that possibility. You are full of possibilities. I love that you're, I love the OBS. I love the idea of, a lot of us who are listening may not have a dedicated studio space like you do, but is there a way that you can carve out that space for yourself, even if it's boundaried by time? So you say, I'm going to set this down and not let this sort of take over all aspects of my life because it is as close as your computer. I love the idea of that. Any other possibilities you got over there, George? Those are great.
The biggest thing that really bothered me was finding that time, because I never turned off. I was always available.
Yes.
I was, and with Schoology, when someone finishes an assignment, it beeps on your phone, and then I'll go to my phone and I'll answer it, and no matter if I was at dinner with my family, I would just stop and grade the assignment real quick and then give them their feedback and everything else. I had to realize that I needed to compartmentalize time. So, not to do everything right away. And the same thing with email. Email will be another thing that takes time from you.
Yes.
The phone rings, you grab it, and then it messes up your time. So you really want to make sure you carve out time for yourself, carve out time for your family, carve out time for work, of course.
Yes. I was like, how your family felt about that when you were like, let me just grade a paper at the dinner table, which you would never do if we were, teaching in a normal
Exactly.
paradigm.
Exactly.
Yeah. How are you? You've already shared with us, as you've surfaced possibilities, you've shared some great ways that you're taking care of yourself by boundarying your time, boundarying your space. Any other thoughts about how you are taking care of yourself right now?
Wine. Lots of wine. Of wine. Yes. Lots of wine. And also find time to commiserate with my colleagues. That's very important, because that way you understand what's going on. Karen, shout out to you. We talk back and forth almost on a daily basis.
Yeah.
We Zoom chat to make sure that we're okay with each other and that everything's tight. Yeah, she says yes, wine. She posted it in the chat there. Yeah, exactly. And I'm also online with other teachers in your district. Facebook groups is another thing. Being able to talk to other educators about things that you are dealing with, and being able to commiserate with them as well.
I love it. And I also hope that people will take advantage of this community, because this is a lot. There's a lot of arts educators and a lot of music educators who are grappling with similar things. And there may be sparks of inspiration popping in this community. Dan, were you going to say something?
I was going to say, thanks, Susan. If you could, any of you who are in Facebook groups that you find particularly helpful, insightful, uplifting, for educators, for arts educators, music educators, please share them with us, because there are so many, and I would love to know which ones are the most beneficial. And, because they can, you don't want to clog up your Facebook feed with a bunch of stuff. George, God,
we
I
love
seeing you. We love seeing you.
One more thing.
Yeah.
You guys may not know that Susan Blackwell has a musical that's available.
Oh, George, thanks for shouting me out.
And that particular musical would work very nicely remotely. So
George,
for something
this is not a paid sponsorship.
I'm sorry, but I gotta mention it. If you're looking for a musical that you might want to be able to do that could be done remotely, Susan Blackwell is a person to look into, and I'm sure she'll talk a little bit more about it. Now that I mentioned it.
I appreciate it. I'm going to thank you by giving you the most magnificent virtual whoosh on the count of 3. And if you're at home and you want to whoosh too, whoosh along with me. Scare your cat. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Whoosh.
Woo.
Thanks, George.
Thank you, guys.
George.
Great to see you, George.
Yeah, take care.
I'll tell a little bit about that in just a second, because I do think it is useful and inspiring to know what can be done online with the arts and that musical. But it looks like we've got Pat. Pat, hi.
Hi, Pat.
How are you doing today?
It's so wonderful to see you. Pat, will you please introduce yourself, who you are, what you teach, where you teach?
Absolutely. Pat Tobin, Arts and Community Engagement Program Coordinator for Sioux City Community School District in Sioux City, Iowa.
Love it. How are you doing, really?
really just really trying to support our educators that are down in the weeds, and it's not easy right now, right?
Yeah.
But we're looking for ways to get through it, and just constantly being on that push of empathy and resilience is so key right now and so vital.
Those words are music to my ears. Will you talk a little bit about specific challenges that you're facing and possibilities that you've surfaced?
Right, absolutely. So through this, we started in hybrid for the first 2 weeks of school, and we are full face on right now. But we also gave our families the option of virtual. So we've got close to 15,000 students in our district, of which 1,000 of them at the elementary level are virtual, and close to 1,300 at the secondary level are virtual. So to start with, really, it was kind of that core content. And when I say core, because we hate that language in the arts of core, right? Because we're all core through ESSA. But there was really a focus on math, language, social studies, and science. And then we were able to get the arts in some of the other classes as well. So our elementary team is teaching on site, and they're pushing out virtual lessons. And then we have secondary people that are pushing out and meeting on teams as well. So really just trying to navigate all of that and to help our teachers get through that. And then the navigation with our performing ensembles, really having those deep conversations. Our kids still want that performance, but they know the safety of it as well. So it's really an opportunity to look at how can we really get into the connect, respond, and create standards, which we've put in place a lot more of the create at our elementary level. So there's kind of that demand coming up anyway. So it's a little easier with our middle schools right now to hit that. But there's, we're constantly facing that wall and that revolution of, we've always been the performing ensembles. How do we make it more comprehensive music education now? And our educators are ready for that, but we're not sure how ready the public is. So just yesterday, I had a conversation with one of our teams that said, Pat, we haven't had instruments out yet, but our kids are creating some incredible music. How can we showcase that? What could that look like? And can we call that a performance?
I love it. And will you tell us, Pat, what are you doing to take care of yourself?
Right. When is their time? Right. And that is truly a key, because in the role that I play, I'm so busy trying to support the health and well-being of our educators so that they're ready to go in front of kids. I will be honest, I have not been selfish enough to say this is my time.
So, Pat, I'm going to give you a piece of homework. Before the sun sets tonight, I would love for you to consider one way and commit to one way that you can take care of yourself during this time. And then I want you to email me at susan@susanblackwell.com and tell me what you decided and committed to.
Right. And it's the right thing to do. Like, it makes us stronger when we commit time to ourselves.
Do you think, are you willing to accept this challenge?
I am. Thank you.
Before the sun sets tonight. I can't wait to hear from you, Pat.
I have an extra hour on top of you because
that's right. But I can't wait to get your email, and I can't wait to hear how you're going to take care of yourself.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. So,
did that answer your question?
Yes. Awesome. It was beautiful. Pat, we're so happy you're with us today, and we're going to whoosh you out. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Whoosh. So weird on mine.
Bye, Pat.
Something that Pat said that, that, and just to echo what George was saying, how can we get these students performing? And what George was talking about, I made a musical with my friends called Now, Here, This, which is all about trying to come into the present moment. Now, here, this. And we were in the midst of making it sort of as flexible as possible so that anybody could perform it, any cast size could perform it. It's as non-gendered as possible. And, just an exploration of the present moment like you do in musical theater. And in the midst of beta testing it with this really great performing arts high school, everything got shut down because of the pandemic. And they made a decision to do it virtually. And I think it was if not the first musical, fully produced, full-length virtual musical that came out of the pandemic, high school or otherwise. It was one of the first. So these students and their teachers were blazing trails and felt so bonded and so connected to the material, to each other. And I saw this with Now Hear This. I saw this with the summer camp that the Met hosted virtually. When people are on to something creatively, when they are on to a spark and they are making something, it really changes their whole character of the time they're living in. When they are not, I can see how scared and depleted people become. So just to echo what Pat was saying and how nicely George set me up for that, I really encourage people to consider ways that you and your students can engage in creativity, really making something together, even if it's virtually, because I see again and again how it changes the way people are experiencing this time.
Absolutely. Susan, on that very, very well put point, Jen Jones, who I don't know, who's an educator possibly joining us for the first time. Hi, Jen. Shared something in the chat that I think is really powerful. Do you mind if I know we're a little over time here and I want to send everyone into I think we're heading for a break.
We're heading for a break.
Did you see this from Jen?
I've been so busy. I haven't seen it, but will you read it out?
I'm happy to. So Jen Jones says, I teach students with intellectual disabilities. This pandemic has given us a chance to slow down and branch out. We are able to have the time to spend weeks studying music, opera, and so many things I could never expose them to. Compassion over curriculum at all times now. I mean that, can you see my arm?
Yes.
It's like really, thank you, Jen.
Jen, as you're watching this, we just want to send you, that is a beautiful sentiment that you just shared. What a beautiful possibility. And Dan, will you please join me in virtually whooshing Jen Jones?
Happily.
1, 2, 3, whoosh. Again, so deeply weird when done virtually. Slightly less weird done live, but just slightly less weird. So now, friends, we are going to take a break. We're going to hear from each other again near the end of our day today. So if you have more that you want to add to the conversation, never fear, there's going to be another opportunity. But now we're going to take a break. We're going to be back at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time, or half past the hour if you're in a different time zone, which many of you are. And we are going to be joined in conversation with Joyce DiDonato and Kenyatta Hughes. And I cannot believe that this is my life and this is how I get to spend my Saturday afternoon. It makes me want to burst into tears.